Holding my microphone like this is probably the most Gen Z thing that I ever did. So you can clap for me now. It is quite easy when you have a large plant collection, and by large, I mean anything above what is within the limits of reason, which is usually like 10 to 15 plants. I think typically people don't have more unless they are like really into plants, 30, 40, 50, or 400, like in this case, or maybe 500, who knows. I would consider that a large plant collection. So I think when you have a large plant collection, a pest infestation can really overwhelm you and make you want to throw all of your plants in the garbage. Believe me, I have been there multiple times this year. I have spent majority of my year being angry with myself, with my plants, really questioning the entire collection because I would say a mild mealybug infestation. I think some people wouldn't even classify it as mild. I think it would be less because, every now and then I find like a couple of mealybugs here and there, so it's not super serious. There are no plants that are like super covered with mealybugs, but for me, personally, it was super frustrating to put so much time and effort into my plants and still see pests. I actually think I see a mealybug from here. You know what's interesting? I think I can somehow communicate with my plants on some like crazy level because I just sense which plant has mealybugs and I am, for whatever reason, driven to check it and I find the mealybug and I'm like, that's really odd. Maybe I have a mealybug ESPN. For those of you who regularly watch my channel, this is not really surprising. It's been a struggle. And for those of you who are new, well, first of all, I do forgive you and you are welcome. My name is Miro, short for Miroslav, and welcome to the war that I declared on mealybugs among my plants. You can join my troops now. What we will do in this video, we will go through some of my plants, not all of them because that would take actual eternity, but we will go through some of my plants and see which of them need to. What is that sound? Please stop being haunted. What we will do in today's video, we will go through some of my plants and really inspect them slowly and thoroughly and see which of them need more treatment. We are going to spot treat today for mealybugs, and I will mostly talk in this video how to sort of stay sane throughout this entire process. So we're not really going to focus as much on the treatments, but I will mention here and there all the things that I use to treat different kinds of pests. And this is not just going to be mealybug specific. We're going to talk about, keeping your sanity in general when it comes to pests. Because I think a lot of people tend to lose their minds. I've seen it online, I mean, everywhere. A lot of people tend to lose their minds when it comes to pests on their plants, and there are plenty of things in this world that are worth losing your mind over, but this ain't it. So we're not gonna be losing our sanity here. But since we are on the topic of sanity here for a moment, I would like to say a thank you to the paid partner of this video, BetterHelp. Once again, regular viewers know this, and the new viewers are just about to be handed a nice, big, fat, juicy suitcase full of personal luggage. But I do struggle from time to time with things like anxiety, lack of self worth, self doubt, spiraling, going in and out of spirals, of course, how I can do things better in my life, focusing on all the areas where I'm failing, some emotional things, emotionally regulating myself, etc. A lot of unchill things in general. And I think a lot of these struggles, if not all of these struggles, are normal things that we experience in our day-to-day lives. However, there are times in our lives when these struggles become so big and they overwhelm us to a point that they make our everyday life really hard. And it doesn't need to be. There are ways to deal with these issues, and therapy is one of them. Another is chocolate, but then you gain weight and then you're depressed about that. So therapy. BetterHelp is a safe space where you can talk about your issues with a credentialed therapist. If you thought that therapy is only for people who struggle with mental health issues, I'm here to tell you that you are mistaken. And you are wrong about that, because therapy actually can be useful for everyone, even only if you're going through a difficult period in your life, or even if you're just emotional. You should probably think about reaching out to your therapist. Therapy is a safe space for you to talk about anything that's on your mind without judgment. BetterHelp is an online mental health platform that connects you with a credentialed therapist with years of experience in dealing with issues that are similar to the ones that you have. You can get help from a credentialed therapist if you're dealing with clinical mental health issues such as depression or anxiety, or simply if you are going through a difficult period in your life and you simply want to get help for managing your thoughts and your emotions so you can become the best version of yourself, because, well, that makes life much easier for you, and also people around you are probably gonna be grateful for that as well. You can use my link betterhelp.com/basieplans, that is BetterHelp, HELP.com/basieplans, to visit their website and answer a few simple questions so BetterHelp can match you with a credentialed therapist. You're usually matched with a professional therapist within 48 hours, and then you can decide how you would like to take your therapy appointments, via messaging, video chat, or a phone call, whichever feels the most comfortable for you. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you from the comfort of your own home. Once again, you can visit betterhelp.com/basieplans, that is BetterHelp, HELP.com/basieplans, or you can choose Basie Plans during sign up, which is the name of this channel, to get a discount for your first month of therapy. Thank you, BetterHelp, for supporting my channel. I thank all of you for your time. Now it is time for us to get up and start working on my plans. Looking forward to it, especially because I know that I will most definitely be finding some unwelcome mealybugs. They clearly did not understand when I proclaimed war on them and when I told them to get out, but okay. You had time to rescue yourselves, but okay. I can't tell if this is a good angle. I'm not loving this situation here. Let me try to adjust a little bit. This is potentially better or potentially worse. No one can tell. Anyway, step number 1 is obviously don't panic. I feel this is such a basic step, but I feel that a lot of people, me included, the queen of panic over here, we tend to panic, and that is actually a problem, because when you're panicking, you are not thinking clearly. Whatever pest you are dealing with, when you start to look for a solution on the internet, you are bound to find several different methods. And this has happened to me in the past, where I did exactly that, and I was panicking and I wasn't thinking, and I used methods that if I thought for a second, I would think this doesn't sound like a good idea, because something might happen to the plant. For example, I remember, I think this was for mealybugs back in 2020, I was having a lot of mealybugs on my Hoyas, kind of similar to what is happening now. History does repeat itself, apparently, with many things, mealybugs excluded. But anyway, I obviously have far, far less mealybugs now. It was much worse in the past. And I looked up treatments, different treatments from people who are much more experienced than I am. And I remember, I can't remember all the components of this treatment, but oil was like a big part of it. And it was just copious amounts of vegetable oil. And I really wasn't thinking it was going way above the 2%. And I had a really difficult time getting rid of that oil from my plants. And I didn't only use it for Hoya, I used it for aeroids too. Those leaves were soaked, and like I could not get off the oil, not even with showering. Like I had to manually wipe all of the leaves clean from the soil, because it started to suffocate the leaves, and the leaves started to get chlorotic. In general, oil can be very problematic. I have had bad experience with mineral oil, which is the lightest of the oils. Editing Miro here, there's gonna be a couple of these moments where I will just pop in. What I wanted to say here is I don't want to say that you shouldn't use oil. I used oil and I will use oil again. I'm not trying to say that. So it's just very important for me, for you to know that I will use oil again. I'm just saying be mindful and know that there are issues with all of the treatments. You can experience issues with whichever treatment you choose, and you may not get the results as other people. So just bear that in mind. I'm, again, not discouraging. I personally go for the oil first as well, but now I'm just more mindful, especially if I'm treating Hoyas that are sort of rare in my collection. I always think twice or thrice, to be fancy here, whether I will treat them with oil or if I will choose something else. I use the concentration of paraffin oil, which is well below what is maximally allowed, and that is 2% concentration. I can't remember exactly how much I used, but I think it was even less than 1%. So, and at that concentration, you have to ask yourself, is this even effective against the pests? Because it is a lot of work to be spraying all of the Hoyas with something that's not going to be effective. But unfortunately, I had some bad luck with mineral oil, and Hoyas started to drop the leaves. The leaves started to get chlorotic. They weren't exposed to the sun nor high temperatures. You have to be always careful when it comes to oil how high the temperature is. There is a certain temperature, and I think it's different for different oils, above which you're not supposed to go. You are not supposed to expose them to the sun with the leaves wet, and you are not supposed to spray the plant when the plant is dry. So if you haven't watered your plant in a while, you're not really supposed to spray it then. Or so it says for the paraffin oil. And what I also discovered recently, because everyone is talking about Pure Crop 1, which I know that everyone is saying is basically magic. All I will say is Pure Crop 1 is oil. It is soybean oil and corn oil diluted in water. There is some glycerin and some other stuff, but like it's basically, I think, soybean oil the most, and then a little bit of corn oil, and that's it. I am not here to crap on Pure Crop 1. I'm glad it worked for a lot of people, but I'm saying that keep monitoring your plants. Keep monitoring your plants. I have talked with some very experienced growers who are afraid to come out and say that they don't think Pure Crop 1 is the magical solution that everyone says it is, because how many plant influencers or content creators or whatever you want to call us have been raving about it. So just keep in mind, there is no magical solution. There really isn't. I've tried many things, from insecticides to oils. I have not tried beneficial insects because they're not available here. There is a company that does import them, but they do it for farmers. And I tried to get in touch with them. They have picked up for the first couple of times, but after that they did ghost me, because I think this operation is not a large scale enough for them to even bother, which is kind of rude, but okay. Anyway, let's move on from that to back to Pure Crop 1. If it works for you, great, but know that you can get leaf yellowing. If you go to Pure Crop 1's website in the reviews, or maybe not Pure Crop 1 website, but I did see reviews someplace where someone who used it has experienced yellowing, and I think it has to do with actually pH, which is interesting, that it raised the pH of water they were using. So they diluted it in tap water, and it raised the pH to, I think, 11, and it caused burns on the leaves. So they used pH down later, and it was fine. So I don't know. I haven't tried Pure Crop 1. It's not available here. A lot of people suggest that Amazon is not available in Serbia, so no, I cannot order it. I could potentially find a workaround, but it would be simply way too expensive. Why is it suddenly so hot? My goodness. Let's just bun this hair. But yeah, well, that's not a look, is it? Okay, back to what I was talking about. Don't panic. I too panic a lot, and I do things that are actually very stupid. Just recently, I had mealybugs in my rotsta cabinet, and I The plants were a little bit dry, so I should have watered them normally first, but I didn't do that. I just, put all of them together, took them to the shower, used pretty warm water. They can stand that water usually, but these plants were number one, dry. Number two, I did use a lot of water to kind of, shower them, etc. And then I used undiluted alcohol. And a lot of those plants were fine, but I did lose three of them, which doesn't sound like a big loss, but unfortunately, those three that were affected were my inner variegated Hoya valeniana, which is very rare still, quite expensive. I'm trying to rescue it. Not inner variegated valeniana, I'm sorry, inner variegated nabawanensis, but also inner variegated valeniana, which is actually Sipitagensis. So inner variegated Sipitagensis, which I am rooting for the bajillionth time. This plant, I will never forgive myself upon. It was beautiful before I transitioned from a smaller to a larger pot. You know the story if you're watching the channel. I used to have a big inner variegated valeniana. Now I have crap. That's what I have. And one of my seedlings from Waliki subspecies tenebrosa croaked. So that didn't go so well. It was quite stupid of me to do that. I just really wasn't thinking. I was like, I used alcohol in the past. I actually did the same treatment in the past with no issue. But the difference is when I did it in the past, the plants were actually watered. That, for some reason, does make actually a big difference whether a plant is watered or not. So don't panic, because if you do, number one, you're going to make a mistake, most likely. And number two, it's just going to be much more difficult on you if you start to panic. You start to get overwhelmed very quickly. So it's not a big deal. You have plants, you will have pests. People who say they don't have any pests don't know what they're talking about. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. And I'm not saying that because I have pests. There were long periods of time, for 3 years, I had none, except for mites. But let's ignore those because we can't see them. But that was a mix of British and American accent. Can't. Anyway, I didn't have a single mealybug. I haven't seen them in 3 years. And I was like, think of the past. Not think of the past. This entire year I have been dealing with mealybug and with mites and with thrips. I also have not seen thrips in a long time. For the thrips, I think the last time I had them was in 2019 or early 2020. I think it was early 2020, and I haven't seen them since, but here we go again. We know the start, we know the end. Will that get copyrighted? I don't know. But I have it on my Basie variegated, the ugliest philodendron that your money can buy, which honestly I'm like, maybe trash. I don't know. I am really disliking this plant. I was gonna sell it, can't sell it now because it has trips. I don't want to toss it in the trash, but I don't want to look at it because something much prettier can take up its space. But anyway, do not panic. That is my tip number one. Tip number two. Don't know what that was. Tip number two. Know what you are dealing with. It is worth your time to actually research what you are dealing with because it is going to help you with your treatment. And don't ask people in the groups. Don't ask people in the groups. Don't ask people who are like me. Don't ask me how frequently you need to spray mealybugs. Why? Because I actually don't know from the top of my head. I have to look it up too. Always, I have to look it up too because I forget. What is the life cycle of mealybugs? I don't hold all this information. I barely hold my name in my head at this point. Hello, it is Editing Miro here. It is nighttime. I just wanted to say here because as I was editing and rewatching this section, I think it comes off potentially a little bit wrong. I don't actually mean to discourage you from seeking advice in plant groups. I think there is a lot of great advice. But what I wanted to say is that Information oftentimes gets watered down, and there is a lot of great information out there online, also in the groups, in the files. I encourage you to search the groups as well. But again, information gets watered down, especially in the comments, and you don't really know who you're talking to. So I really encourage you to try to investigate on your own. Of course, when you need to ID a pest, then it is absolutely necessary and it's good to ask other people. But when you're looking up treatment, yes, ask for opinions, but also, look up the life cycle of the pest yourself. I really encourage that. Researching and getting information slash knowledge ain't gonna kill anyone. So I don't know. I at least wouldn't just ask in groups. I would try to research things for myself. I can't remember it all, and some people will tell you vaguely, but vaguely is not good enough in these cases. You need to be really specific. You need to know how frequently you need to treat. And again, a lot of people are not, I just, I don't know why this is, but some people are like this. They, instead of telling you, I don't know, I don't think there is any shame to say, I don't know. They will actually tell you the information that they have not checked and they don't know whether it's true or not. So, for mealybugs, that's what we are dealing with today and tomorrow and until the end of times, which is kind of close. Anyway, let's put that joke aside. We're dealing with some mealybugs, and there are some mites on my Hoyas, which we will take a look later, maybe tomorrow, because this is gonna be longish. And we also have some no ID issues. Don't know what's going on, but we will have to look and find out. I'm not saying this to discourage, any conversation, community or anything like that, but just so you can get the most reliable information. There are so many good websites, so many good articles that you can read, and it's interesting to find out some of this stuff. Some of the stuff that you find out is going to be pretty scary, like for example, one mealybug, depending on the species, and there are many species of mealybugs, can lay up to 500 or 600 eggs. Love it. I love that. I'm so happy I learned that. Yeah, just try to look it up yourself. I mean, I'm not discouraging you. If you ask me and if I know, I will, of course, tell you. Honestly, sometimes I will see a question. I'm like, I gotta Google that. So I'm not gonna do it because I'm not the customer support of plants. But if I know confidently what the answer is, then I will reply. For example, this is an issue that I'm not really sure what is going on here. This is on my Hoya surisana. Hoya surisana, when she got into this tent, she was a stunner. She no longer is a stunner. I don't know if this is proximity to the light, because she was quite close to the light and she wasn't in the past. She was also underwatered a little bit, but not enough for the leaves to go kind of limp. And she has good roots. There's nothing, that was the tent. That sounded like a fart. I swear it's the tent because I'm sitting on the entrance. Oh my goodness, I hope microphone did not pick up that. But you can see this branch here, there is some yellowing. Now to me, typically this type of yellowing is indicative of some mite issue. So I will actually spray this for mites, but it could be due to light. It could be exposure to very high light for this plant. Because this vine is mostly fine, there is a new vine growing, so I'm not super concerned. And I did look on the underside of the leaves, and yes, some of the mite species you can't really see. Sometimes you can see some movement, but what you will see is damage, and I don't see any. This is the issue that's happening on several of my Hoyas, where I have a whole bunch of leaves going yellow. Medinellofolia, my Hoya apoda too. I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. I have not fed my Hoyas at all this year. Or like very little. They got very little fertilizer. So I am wondering, it does not look like a nutritional deficiency, nutrient deficiency, but we don't know. Sometimes I at least can't tell confidently, but I will spray this with either sulfur or with nimbecidin, which is similar to American Azamax. And I think I'm gonna try Azamax, or what we have, it's weaker, just to see how this is gonna do. And because it also allows me to use other products in case it is not mites. Sulfur. This is the thing, I don't know if people know this about sulfur, but you absolutely cannot use anything else with sulfur. Sulfur plus water and you're done. 6 weeks before and after the treatment, you can't use anything else because sulfur can react. So sulfur is not to be mixed with any oil, and with most insecticides, it cannot be mixed. And you need to know that. So about sulfur, there is like a warning on the label. So because I actually don't really know what the issue is, I feel that I will go with Azamax. So anyway, tip number 2, get to know what you are dealing with if possible. Again, it will not always be possible. Absolutely ask around for the symptoms, for someone to look at your plant if you can in the groups. That's what groups are good for. But just when it comes to treatment, try to also look up, the life cycle of the pest yourself. For mealybugs, spraying twice, with a week apart is not going to do it. A life cycle of mealybugs can be anywhere between 1 to 3 months. And I think in a year, 4 to 10 generations can exchange. So it's actually quite a long treatment, and I have had them this entire year. We have had issues with mealybugs. Again, none of the plants were super infested, but enough to get me pissed off because I have been putting a lot of energy. I do see this one is starting to grow here and here, so this one definitely needs to be sulfured because I do think potentially there are some mite issues. Whenever I see a vine that looks like this, ooh, can you see that discoloration on the vine? I'm always very suspicious of the mites when I see that. I don't use a microscope because I'm a very anxious person, and if I start to use microscope, I will get obsessed. And we just do not need me obsessing over that as well. So I don't use a microscope. Instead, I look for the symptoms and I try to recognize the symptoms because I think that's also a very good way to go about this. I don't need to actually check if I see the symptoms. This obovata does not have anything. And the reason why we are going through my tent today is because I did find a mealybug on some of the flowers of my scortechini. So we are looking through all of the plants here in the tent. We're taking it slowly, inspecting under the leaf as well, just to make sure that we don't miss anything. And if we see some, we're going to remove them manually with alcohol. Of course, again, experience of others is super valuable. Absolutely do ask for that, but don't fully rely because you never know who you're talking to and if they actually know what they're talking about. Me included, right? I'm not excluding myself from any of this. Wow, that's a very good angle. Tip number 3. This is gonna take a moment. This is gonna take a moment. Get ready because the life cycle and the way that these pests spread is most likely going to take more than 2 treatments, than a couple of weeks. You may need to fight this intruder in your collection for several months, half a year, and just know that's what this means. Now, I want to say something here, but first I think we need to zoom out my camera a bit. What the heck? Nope, wrong direction. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm gonna fall into this tent and die. Break my neck on something here. Let's get this first out and start. I really needed to repot this plant such a long time ago. Do you see this trellis? It's so unstable, and I've been keeping this for my Hoya chores And I've been putting this off because I want to do it in a video and like I never get around to it. And one of these days, it's just gonna fall out of the pot, completely break, and I'm gonna be like, who could have known this is gonna happen to me? Something is attacking me from behind. Please don't touch me because I'm freaking out. Anyway, this is gonna take a while. This is gonna take a while, and I think we do have a bit of a wrong perception about growing plants in the houseplant community. Hear me out. If you are doing gardening, you don't expect that you won't have any work. In fact, you expect that you will have work all the time. Same as with houseplants, especially if you have hundreds of them, you're going to have work all the time. I used to think once when I get done with this pest treatment, finally I get to rest. The reality is there's no rest. There is absolutely no rest. You chose this. You chose this. You wanted no rest. So there you go. They delivered. Okay, so I changed the recognition target on my camera once again to bird animal. What am I doing? I don't know. Once again, I'm a bird. My nose is large, but like, come on, that's offensive. I completely forgot where I was with my story. Yeah, when it comes to houseplants, they are a lot of work, and it is completely fine if you start to collect houseplants and you realize now, this is not actually what I thought I was signing up for. Completely fine. I don't think that I entirely understood what I was signing up for with as many Hoyas and different plants, plus the channel. It is a lot of work, and I continuously attempt or think about downsizing. It's fine if it's not for you, and don't feel bad about it, because this actually, if you want to grow all of these plants really well, it is quite difficult. See, I don't actually know what's up with this Hoya apoda. And this is the second Hoya apoda that we are having issues with. I feel that we need to check the roots on this one. At least there are no mealybugs, but I do suspect there are mites. It also hasn't grown in a while. I just don't know what's up with that. I do believe that this has mites actually, now that I look at it closer. I do see orangey, small, moving things. Mites. Okay. Love you. So let's not despair there. Let's listen to our own advice. We're not despairing, we're not freaking out, and we understand this is going to take a moment. Even with mites, it's going to take a while with the treatment, and that's fine. I'm not just talking about Hoyas here, I'm talking about all the plants. If you watched my previous video, you know that I discovered mealybugs, root mealybugs on all of my begonias. And my initial reaction was, I want to throw them all in the trash, but we decided to be merciful and we didn't do that. But it was quite not shocking because I suspected for a moment. I can't say that I was shocked, but I was still very disappointed to see that. And I am fully prepared, especially with the actions that I took with these, which is removing all the potting mix, soaking them in Confidor, which is imidacloprid, which is used for root mealybugs, that they may not come back in a long time. It may be 6 months until those begonias regrow and get to their former glory. So this is really a thing that I want to talk about here. Growing plants is rarely a linear process, many ups and downs. You can grow a plant for 10, 20 years well, and it can croak very quickly. It's just the way that this is. There are no guarantees. Just because you knew once how to grow a plant and you were successful once, doesn't mean that you always will be. So don't take them for granted, especially like when it's a plant that you really like. Don't take it for granted because you just never know. By the way, you haven't seen this. This is my variegated, outer variegated Sulawesiana. I was gonna make a video about her, but we didn't get to that, and now it's too late for that video. She's doing really well. There is a little bit of water. I need to move her to maybe a different pot because we're just a little bit worried about this drainage here in these pots, but the roots look fine, so I'll think about it. It only grew one leaf, which is much smaller than the original one, but we're hoping for the best. I'm so happy to see that she does not have any mealybugs. So that's good to see. Oh my goodness. Something smells relatively nicely in this tent, but I can't figure out what that is. I'm trying to search for the culprit of the scent, but I literally have no idea. Oh, we found a mealybug. We found a mealybug, and we found it on a plant that... The last thing I want on this plant are mealybugs. How dare you? I was really wondering there for a moment, is this premature? It ain't. We found a mealybug on my Hoya Eve Rocheri. Is this Eve Rocheri? No, this is Stenophila. This is Hoya Stenophila, and we found a mealybug on Hoya Stenophila. How great. Let's kill something, right? Let's kill something. So we are going to use alcohol, and then I'm going to use nimbecidin, which is Azamax, and that is supposed to act as anti-fedant. While this year I have been working on space for isolation, I'm obviously not going to... I just knocked over a Hoya. I'm obviously not going to isolate much right now or anything because it just doesn't make sense in this tent. I mean, they're all sort of limited to this tent. I don't think that we have, maybe we do have in the first tent. So all of my sections have been affected by a couple of mealybugs. All of my sections, like the tents, the cabinets, you know. And that actually brings us to the next step. Prioritize. Prioritize because it's going to make things much easier for you. Listen, they are going to multiply, but if you want to treat everything in a single day and you have a lot of plants, you're just going to exhaust yourself and you're not going to be able to go through the fight with the mealybugs. So you need to prioritize here what you are going to do. I am prioritizing this tent today, and then tomorrow we're going to take a look at the Millsbow, and I'm going to take a look at some plants that are outside of this tent. I'm not going to look at the other tent that may not even be looked at in this video. So we need to prioritize here because I know if I dedicate all day to this, first of all, I'm not going to finish everything anyway because there's so many plants. I'm going to exhaust myself. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to feel like I didn't do anything today. I have videos to edit. I have things to study for my driver's test. I need to do other things. I need to make lunch. If I dedicate all day to this, I'm not going to make lunch. I'm not going to eat healthy. I'm going to feel like crap. So we will prioritize and we will do things in section. Do I want to see a juicy one? Look at her. Look at her. Can you see her? I literally can't tell. If I show you my head, my camera is gonna... But there was like one single mealybug right there towards the bottom. Maybe we see her, maybe we don't. But that's not important. If you see her, I see her. So we're gonna destroy this mealybug. Goodbye, girl. Goodbye. Oh, you're trying to escape? Death becomes her. Bitch. Now, because we saw one, it is a good time to inspect the plant as best as you can to see if there is anything else that is moving around and that you find suspicious. And if there is, kill it. So I'm going to slowly check this plant, see if there is anything that I can potentially see right now. We are going to make a note in my phone that I need to check this in a couple of days, specifically this one, to make sure there is nothing going on Stenophila. Also inspect the top of the potting mix. Sometimes they will fall. This is not a mealybug, but it looks like some mold, so I'm just gonna do that. They will sometimes fall and crawl back up, and you wonder where do they come from. They also, apparently mealybugs, when the temperature is not ideal for them, they are gonna go under the bark, for example. They're gonna go in your potting mix to kind of wait out for more ideal conditions, which is something that I didn't know they do, but they apparently do that. And not a great discovery, but hey, they are of course something that I forgot to tell you, even though this is not really a mealybug video. In warmer temperatures they're gonna multiply faster, in cooler temperatures they're gonna multiply less, but I think if it gets very, very warm, then they also are going to multiply a little bit slower. Okay, we found one. Bingo, right? Bingo. I've won the lottery. So yeah, we will need to prioritize things. That's really, really the best advice that I can give you. Trust me, coming from someone who exhausted himself in the past and who has a really big issue with prioritizing, with deciding to do only part of the task instead of the full task, it does come in very handy. It's very useful when you can actually prioritize and decide, I'm not going to do everything today, I'm going to do only something. I might even stop at half of the tent. We're going to see. So we are actually going to look where that Stenophila was and see if we can find another live one. So that's what I'm going to do here, and to make a mental, aka physical note really, that we found mealybug on Hoya Stenophila. So mealybug. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep a track of where I found them to get an idea what I need to check more frequently, and for future video, for some future usage, know how long it actually took to get over or to destroy the mealybugs on that plant. Hopefully they're not going to show up again, but you never know. This is actually Ivrosheri, not looking great, but improving. Such difficult recovery since it was in pawn, but I hope we get there soon. Okay, I don't see anything on this one, which makes me happy because there isn't much to be affected here. This one is not going to get treated with oil again. One of the reasons it lost so many leaves is also an oil treatment, but it did lose roots and pawn as well. Is this a good idea? TMI, but I think my butt is wet right now because I did not properly clean the bottom of the tent. Anyway, tip number 5 is kind of similar to the other one where I told you to prioritize because you will exhaust yourself. So tip number 5 is really do not exhaust yourself. If you can help it, try to limit your time dealing with an issue. I limited myself to doing hour and a half of plant chores every single day. Now, that being said, sometimes rules that you set out for yourself need to be broken, and I will allow, but don't do it too often. The reason why I will allow, and I think I might actually stop very soon here for today, is because we, kind of started with this tent, we were taking stuff out, but I also, to be quite honest with you, knocked a lot of the plants over. So that just means it's not going to be a very simple cleanup. By the way, my undulata is looking very nice, isn't she? If I find a mealybug on it, I'm absolutely gonna lose my darn cute mind. Nope. But I do think we will treat her for mites just in case, because these Hoyas with Domatia don't even look. They have mites 100%. And I do see mite damage on undulata. This is typical for mitrata too. I will show you what this looks like in one moment. Not right now because I'm so far away, but it doesn't seem to detract the plant too much for growing, but you know, these are very susceptible to mites, and it's very difficult to treat them in Dalmatia. I actually have a video on my Patreon where I treated my Hoya mitrata. And then as we start to look under, you can start to see more and more signs of the mites. Just pretty big signs. And we get to the part that's really difficult to treat because you really have to pull this apart, and again, when it's potted, this is not so easy. But the more we look, the more we can see what that looks like and how spread, how much they have spread. I am actually thinking about cutting this off and throwing it away, the entire root ball. I am not going to do that just yet. We'll see how effective this is, but this is very difficult to spray. You can't effectively get in there with your sprayer, especially because these close around the stem. I cannot even show you. See, this is the stem, and they completely close around this. So that's an issue, and you can see how nasty they start to look. Let me just try to get in there. The more we get into the Dalmatia, the more you can see what that looks like. It's also interesting because these are the leaves that we started off. Look at this one, how small it is. Wait, I want to show you. These are some of the initial leaves that I got the plant with. And then look at the big ones. What a difference. I'm not going to touch them now. But yeah. So that is very challenging to treat. And of course we did break one. But you can see here what that leaf looks like, how it's sort of cup shaped. Also, this is, let's not, cry about it. It's not too tragic. But that's also the issue. The more you do that, the more prone to breakage this is. The more that you manhandle this, if you were to spray this, the greater chance of you just breaking it all off is. And this is supposed to look like that. This is supposed to be so clumped. So very, very tough to treat that for mites. And I was just shocked to see how many signs of mites there are in this Dalmatian. I thought the plant looked good overall, and she does, but when you start to remove those leaves, when you start to truly look at them, to lift the leaves in the Dalmatia, you start to see the damage and the signs that are not even hidden, like they're pretty obvious signs, pretty clear signs of infestation. But anyway, try to not, at least not exhaust yourself if you can help it. I am someone who definitely does this all the time. I am notorious towards this because, again, I'm notorious about it because notorious among my friends, but also here on the channel, I always say I went to bed at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. treating the plants and doing plant chores because I can't tell myself when is the time to stop. And I usually tell myself way too late. Found another one. Mwah! Love it. Love it. Yeah, it's difficult for me to tell myself when it's time to stop. I'm pretty bad at judging my energy levels. I always think I can do more. But also, now I took all of these Hoyas out of the tent and I keep thinking maybe I should keep going because I feel pretty good energetically. Like I have a lot of energy today. But then I think it's gonna take me as much time to put them back in as it took me to take them out. Like maybe a little bit less because I'm now checking them, also visually inspecting for mealybugs, but it's gonna take a lot of time as well. So Maybe we don't get to finish everything today, and I'm not going to be terribly disappointed, to be quite honest with you. I think maybe I will leave this lower section for tomorrow or some other day, and then the upper section I will finish today because I know there are mealybugs on that scortechini, so I want to check that to make sure that we got them all. And even though I did see one mealybug on Ivrosheri there, I think we're fine. And it's not Ivrosheri, it is still Cynophila, even though I keep saying it's Ivrosheri. So we don't see any anymore. So again, it's just not a super serious infestation, but this regular monitoring is really necessary if you want to avoid an infestation. And I feel the reason why I somehow kept them at bay is because I frequently check them. But anyway, this is nothing to do with the tips, with the tip, don't exhaust yourself. I don't know if anyone else is like this, by the way, like how good you are with just being completely honest with yourself and how much time something is going to take. Do let me know. Actually, this Hoya has some issues. I think this one has not really recovered well after transition from pond, so this needs to be pro-boxed actually. So I'm just going to remove that, or like put in a, honestly everything today is falling out of my hands, or needs to be put in a baggie. Hopefully this one doesn't have anything, because this one was moved here to avoid getting infested with spider mites. So it would be kind of ironic if she got mealybugs here. This also needs to be pro-boxed. This is a very, very ugly rescue propagation of the Basie of my undulata, one of the 3 remaining, and it needs to be in the pro box until it grows. It's not a great idea to have some of these hanging here. Some needed to be taken care of a long time ago. These caudatas never get enough water. They should have been larger than they are currently. But I just haven't had time to actually deal with that. Scortechini is also intertwined with several plants, so that's the issue with Hoya. As they grow, they are gonna go around. They're going around and they are causing you more issues. So I think in order to actually get this under control, we need to get that Scortechini tamed, which honestly, maybe the last thing I do before I take a lunch break. Of course, in order to do that, I need to get up, and I barely managed to sit down without knocking over something. So if you see a wet butt, just know it's the tent, not me, okay? I need to know it's the tent. So this Scortechini goes here, and then where do you actually go? You go here. I'm just really looking to trim it now, but a million scissors, all of them out of the tent. I'm gonna trim the vine that is causing me issues here. It's getting stuck, and this is what I mean. It's gonna exhaust me to actually do this properly. So I'm taking a shortcut by trimming these vines that are so intertwined. I don't care. These plants grow like weeds anyway. So if I'm seeing that something is causing an issue, I'm just trimming it. Okay, so my Scortechini is free. It's not looking the best, to be quite honest. So I might actually use this opportunity to repot it, because I think it hasn't liked its life in a long time. It sort of did okay. I mean, it's doing okay, but I don't know. I think I will repot it. It's in pawn. I'm just not a big fan. So let's take a close look at my Hoya Scortechini, see if we can find a mealybug. This is going to take a while, as I said, going through all of these plants, and you really need to look slowly, because it's easy to confuse an aerial route for a mealybug. You think you have one, you don't, you think you don't, you have, etc. Look for places like flowers, around the flowers, near the base of the plant, near where the leaves join, all of the places where they can hide, especially under the Velcro tapes, under the hair clips. Those are excellent places for them to get into, and then they can breed like maniacs there. They really are maniacs. I don't see anything on this plant. I will check the roots and see if we can transition her. So that's another task which I may not do today. I may just put this somewhere outside of the tent until I decide what I will do, because again, we are going to follow our own advice not to exhaust ourselves. It's not going to be too exhausting to repot this plant, but you know, we need to do some other things here. So I'm going to take a break here to have some lunch, and then I will do just these around Scortechini and finish there for today. If I somehow, with the corner of my eye, see another mealybug, I will take care of it, but I'm not untangling anything else today. I'm going to return to this tomorrow and continue looking, or the day after tomorrow, I'm going to continue looking and see what's going on. One thing that I might do, if I see some vines kind of falling, I might clip them or put them back, just so we contain the Hoyas a little bit. And if something is spreading so it doesn't spread as fast, you know, let's not help them out here. And I've done more than an hour. I've done 2 hours at least of this. Yeah, 2 hours at least of going through these. So we're stopping here for a moment, having lunch, and then, you know, putting all this back. Oh, there's actually a lot of Hoyas. But there are more tips, so don't tune out. Miro is taking a break. You're not allowed to take a break. You're not taking a break from this video. I am gonna be back in a second. Obviously, it is day 2 of this video, and welcome to a bit of a backlit moment. My camera is like warning me it's backlit. What do you want me to do about it? What do you want me to do about it? We are going to continue here sort of with the tips. Or maybe they're not exactly tips, but things to be reminded of when you're going through this whole pest thing. What I want to tell you right now is there is a solution. 100% there is a solution. What that solution looks like, well, we're going to discuss that, but there is definitely a solution to your pest issues. Number one, obviously, there is the treatment, and we are going to treat these plants here. Actually, you don't see them. One of them is this frogfoot, which has lost a significant amount of leaves, which I have kept like a sick person. Hold on. I have kept the leaves that both my Amrita and Medinillifolia lost. So we have lost 4 leaves we have lost from Amrita, which is not great. And they're losing the leaves at the same time. So those are the 4. They have started to yellow from the base, and we have lost 5 from Medinillifolia. So we are keeping these. I have looked at these and I don't see really sign of mites, and I'm not quite 100% sure what the issue is, but there is always a solution. So what we are going to try to do today is spray them for mites. I'm going to treat them for mites. I'm going to assume there are mites. I don't see any other pest. I did see one singular mealybug on my Hoya Amrita, but one singular mealybug is not causing this. I have wondered about maybe root issues, but if I do uncover the potting mix of my Amrita, I do see that the roots appear to be in good condition. It is watered, so it cannot be that. So my sort of next step, my next thinking is maybe it is mites. It could be. It is possible. I don't see typical leaf signs that these are affected by mites, but they really could be. So we're going to treat them with sulfur for mites. I didn't use oil on these. I did use abamectin, but that's been weeks ago. And now I'm going to try with sulfur because I've treated these with sulfur and they have already started to grow. I do wonder if it's environmental. Maybe it's a little bit low light because they're only getting the light from here, and some residual light, but these are not highlight plants. This Anthurium had thrips, but again, these are not sign of thrips. So we're just gonna start the treatment. If it doesn't work, there is another solution, which is to restart the plant. Take cuttings, isolate them in a prop box, and then monitor them. And that usually solves the issues. If it's a root issue, if it's a light issue, they will be in the prop box and they will get a little bit more light. So we will see how we will do that. So those are some of the solutions. Obviously, treating for pests by spraying, by introducing beneficials. If they are available in your area, they are not available here, so I can't really do that. And a completely valid solution, which I will say it is a solution, is getting rid of the plant. If it's causing you stress, if you can't figure it out, if it's not a plant that is precious to you, but it is heavily infested and you cannot deal with it, let it go. I have spent a lot of my time in the past treating plants that I should have just let go because at this point, a lot of them are easily available. You can take a small cutting, really make sure to clean that from the pest, especially like if you're having a lot of mealybugs, if you're having a large infestation, I would really recommend just taking a cutting and tossing the rest of the plant out because it's not worth it. Some infestations are just way too big. They're way too big. And it's perfectly fine. I know that a lot of people on the internet, which I actually wanted to make a video about because they are really judging people who throw out their plants, and I want to judge back. You need to stop being so precious about the plants. Like, you need to prioritize yourself. If you're stressing yourself out, if you're having anxiety attacks, if you are super worried about the plants, they're not bringing you joy. Like, let's be real. They're not bringing you joy, and that's not what they are here for. We can talk about conservation and other stuff like that, that we are sort of doing this to conserve a species and maybe, but, then take a cutting. If it's something that's super rare, take a cutting and be done with it. Make sure that you have the energy and the strength for the rest of the plants and all the other things in your life. So we are going to deal with these today. I'm going to record like a B-roll, which I'm not looking forward to because I'm going to take you to my bathroom, which is not the most aesthetically pleasing, but we are going to deal with these. And I think it's a great time to also go through the rest of the plants here, kind of do a little bit of a shower, a little bit of a clean. Some dust has collected, which is my second worst enemy after the mealybugs. Dust, why have we invented? Ooh, who has sent us the dust? Completely useless. Okay, I'm actually going to sit down here for a moment because I noticed even in my last video when I'm standing, I don't really know what to do, so I start to shift. And it gets super annoying. Like myself, when I edit, I want to slap myself. So I need to be sitting down and just, move with my hands because if I'm standing, it's like the entire body needs to move around. So what I wanted to say here is it will pass. It will pass. It may look like it's not going to pass, but it will. I have had countless pest infestations throughout my career of growing plants, which has been very lengthy. I've started, as I said many times, even in elementary school. And interestingly, I had fewer pests. I think in the past 5-6 years, because of how we collect plants, how sort of everything exploded, I feel that the presence of pests also exploded. All of us are getting crap load of plants, which is great. I love that for us. I love that we can afford a lot of these plants that were ultra rare, but I myself am guilty of not proper quarantine, which introduces more pests into my collection. And sometimes it's, for lack of space, or sometimes I'm just being too precious, like with my begonias. Actually, we should check my begonias today. I have seen some improvements. I have seen that some are starting to root. They look absolutely horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So be prepared for that. And I will record like a video eventually if they recover. I think I have like in my video ideas. Hold on, I'm gonna just tell you how I named it because I think it's funny. Okay, I probably think that I'm funnier than the rest of the people think, but I wrote, all my begonias have root mealybugs. This is how I recovered them. And then in parentheses I wrote, only if they don't die, LOL. Because yeah, some of them are struggling a bit. It's kind of looking a bit scary at the moment, but I have full faith in the prop box, in my magical grow tent, that they can fully recover. But, it will pass. Eventually, it will pass. So that is some comfort for you. It cannot last forever, the pest infestation. You will, if you, of course, put effort in it, you will win. And, if you can't put effort in it now, wait for spring, summer, and just take them out. Actually, in the past, I had this beautiful Schefflera, which I think I gifted. I can't remember. I do believe that I gifted. And that plant, every single year, when you bring Schefflera inside, 100% you're going to get scale. There's just no way, no matter what you do, scale is coming to that Schefflera. And I always kind of put it in place in my home where it doesn't, touch any other plants, and I wait for spring and I take it out and they're just gone. Something takes care of them outside, but indoors, no matter what I do, no matter how much I spend removing that scale, they are just so present. And the plant seems fine, like it doesn't drop any leaves, nothing happens. It's like mostly okay. But yeah, I find Schefflera super annoying. That's why I don't grow one, even though I actually kind of like Schefflera. I love to see a big, nice Schefflera, but I remember even when I was visiting my Hungarian teacher, because she's a principal in a local school, and she showed me their Scheffleras. I'm like, oh, those for sure have pests. And she didn't believe me. She's like, no way, because they look so good. And I'm like, well, let's come together and inspect them. And lo and behold, there they were. So Schefflera and scale. Which is not the topic of the video, but here we are. I mean, that's what we do. Talk about things that are not topic of the video. It's a lot of digression. I should really name the channel Digressions with Miro. Or I should make a new channel that's going to be Digressions with Miro. I don't know. Good idea? Potentially. I'm actually kind of liking this angle for kind of sitting down and just chatting with you. It is kind of good looking. I bet though when I transfer this to my computer, I will think this is the worst angle imaginable, but I don't know. Now on the camera screen, it kind of looks good. But another thing that I love to do when I'm dealing with pests is like put some jam on. You need some music or a podcast or something. Like this is the time to catch up with the podcast. It's not a great time to catch up with your friends. I've tried that. It's not a great time because I get too distracted and I'm not a great participant in the conversation, but like putting a podcast on or music is great. I might create a playlist for you if you want to listen to what I listen to when I deal with pests, or if you want to listen to a podcast. I have several that I really like to listen. They are not for everyone. I like A Bit Fruity with Matt Bernstein. I think that's his last name. And what else do I love? I love a lot of podcasts. Obviously, I mean The Bold and the Beautiful, Power User by Taylor Lorenz. I love Magical Overthinkers, Maintenance Phase. I was listening to Jillian Turetsky, Jillian on Love, but I'm not doing that. I'm not listening to that as much lately. I was listening to Broski Report, but I'm not really listening to that anymore. Let me see, what else did Miro listen to? I mean, this is coming from someone who absolutely did not like to listen to podcasts, and here we are listening to several of them. So anyway, put some music on, try to cheer yourself up, because it can be a little bit challenging mentally, because, I've been saying to my friend the other day, not the other day, several weeks ago, I just can't believe that I have mealybugs and they're like, appearing here and there. And I put so much time into treatment, into making sure these plants look good. And just thinking about that and like seeing that they're mealybugs still, despite all of my efforts, is really something that gets me down. It's really defeating. And I'm trying not to think about that because like they're just part of life at this point. Like what even is the point of despairing about this, right? No, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna put some music on and, start dancing, moving around, and also, scream from the top of your lungs. Make sure that everyone in the house hears you and they want to kick you out because they just cannot stand how close your voice is to Mariah Carey, Celine Dion. That's not actually the music that I listen to. I've been listening to a lot of Kate Bush recently and 70s and 80s rock, and I've been listening to a lot of like symphonic metal like Nightwish, all of their like albums and stuff. And there has been some with Temptation and other things mingling in there. So I guess they just cannot deal with the voice and that I am more talented than they are. Jealousy is really ugly. And honestly, if you think about this whole pest thing, it is kind of calming, right? Like it is kind of calming, especially like the mealybugs. It's really satisfying to clean your plant and to get rid of the mealybugs. Mites, that's not calming because you can't really see them, but with mealybugs, when you can actually see yourself being effective, that part is calming. It's not so calming when you see them again after like several days, but while you are, swabbing them with alcohol, that part I find actually really calming and like I did something. So, mealybugs are kind of good for that, to calm you down. But just try to take comfort and to find some calm in the fact that you are doing something about that. So if you can kind of switch your mindset about it, try to do that because you will feel better. I know that a lot of people have other things going on in their life aside from plants, and same. I mean, maybe it doesn't seem so, but like I do. And it can get you down when you have to spend like an entire day knowing that you're not going to be able to treat everything in this single day. And for me, like a big challenge here is if I don't treat everything, they're just going to spread again to the parts that I did treat. But try not to think about those things, just try to calm yourself down and to be like, I'm actually doing something actively to get rid of these nasties. So it's all about the mindset. Really, it is all about the mindset. And I mean, to be quite frank with you, at any given point, I don't think this is my favorite thing to do. There are always other things that I would rather be doing than dealing with pests. Obviously, even like reading a book, watching a movie, whatever. There are always better things to do, but sometimes it has to be done. It's kind of like washing the dishes, Maybe it's not like washing the dishes because it's not like washing the dishes at all. But, try to find some good metaphor here that will work for you. For me, it's just like trying to think that I'm actively doing something to reduce the population of the pest in my plant collection. One last thing I want to tell you here is you slay. You will win. You will slay them all. You are Buffy of your plant collection. You are the slayer. You are going to win. There's no way you're not going to win. I mean, even by throwing the plant in the garbage, you have won because guess what? They're all gonna croak in the garbage. That was almost close to a French accent, wasn't it? I'm proud of myself. Anyway, even if I throw a plant in the garbage, I will take that as an absolute win because, hey, I stopped you. I stopped you from getting on other plants. I stopped you from reproducing. Soon you will croak in that garbage. Maybe they will live for like a moment, but they will eventually croak. So who is the winner? I mean, we had to risk a lot, but the victory is mine. So the victory will be yours for sure. That's the mindset shift here that I want you to have. And don't feel bad about it, no matter what anyone tells you. And if I see someone in the comments saying that it's giving up if I put the plant in the trash or how can you, I'm gonna come to your house. I will put you in the trash. I am really not here for this whole energy of people being so precious about their plants to the point where we don't consider our mental health, where we don't consider like other people and that they might have something else going on. I am over that whole vibe, and I think moving forward in 2025, everyone should be over that whole vibe. I will tolerate no judgment in the plant community on this channel. I'm just gonna this is not a democracy. I am the supreme leader of the Basie plants, obviously, and of the Hoya. I will proclaim myself as the supreme leader of the Hoya, so I do not want to hear any judgment, or else you're gonna go into the trash. Do you know when I was studying, there was this professor, I mean, I didn't do this, but like there was this professor that was really mean, and when I got to university, I mean, she was horrible. She was absolutely horrible. The worst kind of human that you can encounter on this planet. And there was a rumor that at one point, like students actually, when she was like on her way home, did put her in the trash because she was so, I mean, like this person was despicable. Because at university here, and this is a digression obviously, at university here the grades go from 5 to 10. 5 meaning that you absolutely failed, 6 is a passing. And this lady, because you still get 5 points for a 5, but when you add all of those points up, it's gonna be like 50 or 55, or 54, which is still not passing. But this lady was like, I'm not gonna even give you those 5 points, because she didn't want them to have even the 50 or 55, 54. So she started to give out 1s and 0s and like 2s, which is like, what? That's awful. Or like 3. Like you failed, but she, graded the amount of how you failed. I mean, I never failed in her class because I was like too scared to, and I was actually doing quite well in her class. I think in all of her, because she did 4 courses in the first year. I think I had 10 in all 4 of them. But anyway, not the point of the story. The point of the story is, like, failing you wasn't enough. She had to even grade the failure. So like you can fail with a 5 or with a 4 or like a 2. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I also don't think it's true that someone actually put her in the garbage. I think this is a story that people kind of came up with because they hated her. But anyway, not the point of this. Not the point of this. I don't actually really remember what was the point and how we arrived here, but that is the charm of the channel, right? That is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you feel a little bit better. Really try not to be so hard on yourself, and I know that it's also difficult. I often myself fall into these very low mood states. I'm not gonna say depression because I think it's a bit ridiculous to say when discover that your plant's infested, you're getting depressed, but I will just call them low mood states where I absolutely feel like the worst grower, where I don't deserve the channel or the followers or anything, where I'm just like absolutely terrible at what I do. And then you gotta pull yourself out from that because we're not gonna be losing our minds, our big giant minds, over some 1mm bugs. Like, come on. This is like that scary movie moment where Cindy was running away from a skeleton and Brenda was like, Cindy, it's bones. Would you run away from Callista Flockhart? Like, such a burn, but honestly, like, it's not worth losing your mind over this. Honestly, it's not worth it. And, I tend to be dramatic and sometimes I say I will lose my mind over it, but I'm actually not gonna. We're gonna actively do things to prevent that. So yeah, that is all the advice and the tips that I have for you. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed and you arrived to this point, I really, like, what are you doing? Like, click on that subscribe button. Also, like, give me a like because we appreciate them. Let me know about some practices that you yourself do in attempt not to lose your mind when dealing with pests. Maybe there is something here that I didn't cover, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And yeah, that is all that we have to do today. That is a wrap. I will see you next week in another plenty video, of course. I think most likely it is going to be like a fully dedicated Hoya video, which we haven't had in a while. I don't count this as a Hoya video, by the way. I think we really need like a fully dedicated Hoya video, which I have planned some videos here. There are like topics. So maybe I can select something. Like, some of the topics that I wrote down will need an extensive amount of work and research, so I'm already late. As always, I'm already late. But yeah, see you next week. Try not to lose your precious mind until then. And that is all. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye. Can someone explain to me why my camera decided that I need to be extra pale? Like, I mean, it's not that I don't appreciate it, but that's not my skin tone. My skin tone is a bit more, maybe. I am that pale. Oh no. What? Need to see the sun more. I would like to take some time to thank all of my patrons for their amazing support. A massive shout out to my $5 patrons. My 2 anonymous patrons, Alex von Siebenthal, Amber Clear, Anne Margaret Moon, Angela Bernard, Angela Parrish, Anna P. and C. Anochka K, Aspen Drake, Betsy, Binge Me, Connie Pagano, Daniela, Danube Daniels, Daria Kaminska, Deborah Violet, Deanne Sikorsky, Etha W, Erin Keenan, Eleni Saxon, Ellen Emmy, Farah, Verdis Verdance, Gathering Moss, Gina Geisa, Gina Radovic, Go Green Tropical, Gross It's Kyle, Growing Nurse, Heather Uppenkamp, Hoji Scott, HoyaCuttings.com, Yana Griffin, Jessica Chio, Jonas Barry, Hjorth Larson, Joshua Davis Riley, Jovan Donat, Cara, Catherine P, Casey Gross, Kelly Gallagher, Kelso, Kimberly Polka, Kiwi Mochi, Christy Ehrlich, Al Lindbergh, Lee Mooney, Lisa Mary MPLS, Lucas Yarchevsky, Mandy Milliken, Marcel Har, Maria Stein, Marina Yarmolich, Mars B, Marty Miller, Mary Rose, Melissa Walker, Michelle Heron, Nicole Ferranti, Mirka Grun Roos, MJW, Moa Edmond, Neil Yang, Niha Basu, Nicole Moreau, Nina Nguyen, Nita Macy, Odette, PJ, Plandrit, Syke Zera, Rachel Peterson, Rebecca C, Sandra Cornelius, Sharon Bone, Sherry Kumar, Sophia Rayan, Stephanie H2O, Tessa Martins, Thomas Marsden, Tia B, Trista Bailey, Tristan Thomas, Wendy Rossman, Zenia Green, Youth of the Volumut, Zaira Rivera, Zordarama, and Zlakom Niponi. A big thank you to my $3 patrons, Angelina Farnan, Karen Kilong Constance, Daryl De Rosario, Eden Corlett, Yana, KPZ, Lindsay N, Mary H, Monica Vikers, Nella, Nerdy Kathy, Renee Church, Ringlov, Sheila Casper, Tangwa Tanasriakul, VH, and Wendy Foreman. And thank you to my $1 patrons, one anonymous patron, Alice Borland, Andrew G, Aquila, Brandon Pacheco, Catherine Molina, Couture Helvetica, Emilia Bronson, Jolie Sullivan, Kayla Vavra, Kelly Ash, Chris Perez, Lauren at Tugboat Plants, Lori Ann Subramaniam, Luzmin Fernandez, Marga FV, Mary Diamond, Neely Spicer, Olivia Chin Muller, Pacific Plant Lady, and Tracy the Eyebuller.